Hey everyone, before this video gets going, I just want to let you know, and some of you might be familiar with this if you already follow me on Twitter, but something came up this week and I need to go into surgery on Monday. This is all very sudden, and so I'm going to be out of commission for like the next 3 to 4 weeks. Because of that, as you can assume given the circumstances, this probably isn't my best script ever with this video. I would try to rush through it just so I could get some stuff out before I go under the knife. I'm actually trying to jam through a lot of content this weekend, so my hope is that I can get a bunch of stuff done in the next like 24 to 48 hours, and that way over the coming like 3 to 4 weeks when I'm unable to do any work whatsoever, I can keep putting videos out. But just know that if things do slow down, that is why, and I will have a video explaining more. I just want to let you know what's going on in case this is the only one of mine you watch this weekend. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this video. I've been busting my ass given the circumstances. Blasphemous may just have some of the best pixel art ever put to screen. If there's one thing that will forever stick with me, it's the sheer talent that must have gone into its design. And thankfully, it's not just the visuals that rock. This game is a good title that a very specific type of gamer is going to absolutely adore, though it's sadly not without its faults. As I'll get to in a bit, there are some annoyances that built up the more I played, and things got frustrating the more time I devoted to the game. I still enjoyed it, so much so that I even got the trophy for 100%ing it, and I plan on doing a second playthrough for the coveted platinum. But what could have been a really solid 9 out of 10 experience drops down to a 7 in its current state. But what is Blasphemous, I hear you collectively asking? Well, lucky you, I got an answer. In Blasphemous, you take on a role of a man called the Penitent One. The story is deeply rooted in religious iconography, so much so that I think at one point you even fight a version of baby Jesus. It's weird, but it's kinda awesome. I'm not going to recount the story here as I haven't read all the lore, and much like Dark Souls, a lot of it is up to interpretation. And without all the facts, my interpretation would be sloppy. Just know it's a very narrative-heavy game if you go looking for it. There are parts with cutscenes and areas where you're locked into conversation, so there is a very simple A to B story if that's all you want, but it's ultimately much more than that and something probably worth discovering on your own. As the Penitent One, you wield a sword called the Mea Culpa. This is the only weapon you find in the game, but combat is no less enjoyable because of it. Fighting feels refined and responsive. There's even a nifty parry button, and for later bosses it's imperative that you have it nailed down. And it feels great once you master it. Combat itself is built around just a few buttons. Square on the PS4 is your main attack, and this can be held or mashed to chain together combos or ever stronger moves. There's also a dash dodge button, and with later combat upgrades you can chain this with your attack for some further combos. On top of that, there's prayers, which is basically magic spells, and these rely on the fervor bar. One awesome thing I like that is if you hold circle, you cut yourself, and this gives you a little burst of fervor mid-combat. It's a neat little risk-reward system, and if used strategically, it can provide an edge. The circle button also does a move which allows you to throw a projectile. There's also the aforementioned parry button, and if used correctly you can deal a gloriously gory execution or an overpowered single swing of the sword. If you haven't gathered by now, the game itself is an action platforming hack and slash that takes more than a few cues from the Dark Souls and Metroidvania style of games. It doesn't outright copy the Souls genre as much as the wonderful Salt and Sanctuary did, but it borrows a few concepts. Most notably bonfires for saving progress, though in this game there's shrines called Prideus. And let's be real, I probably mispronounced that, but whatever, sue me. There's also a punishment for death, though unlike in Souls where you lose your, souls, this game doesn't punish you as much. Instead you take on guilt, and guilt manifests itself as a root which begins to take over your magic bar, called fervor in this case. As you take on more guilt, you become ever more limited on the amount of prayers you can cast, though there does seem to be a hard limit on how much of a percentage of your bar you can lose. To get back to full capacity, you can travel to your location of death and receive a blessing. This undoes some or all of your guilt, depending on if this was your only place of death or not. As for the rest of the game's design, similar to other Metroidvanias, it takes place in a semi-open world environment, and new areas and secrets can be opened up as the player discovers new abilities and such. One way exploration expands is with what's called relics. These are items which give the player new ways to see the world. You can equip 3 at a time, and there's 7 total to be found within the game, and some of their powers let you breathe in toxic mist, grow roots to reach areas previously unreachable, and another causes bloody platforms to grow out of nowhere, allowing the player to again reach previously unreachable areas. All of the powers but one were incredibly useful, but it would have been nice if all could be equipped at once. They give no edge in combat, so it would have just been a drastic quality of life improvement if I didn't constantly have to open up my menu to switch them around every few rooms. Some of the things relics help the player attain are various collectibles and upgrades. There's bile flasks, which can be turned in at blood fountains to increase the amount of healing items you carry, rosary beads and mea culpa hearts which add combat bonuses, and then there's also 38 cherubs to rescue as well as 44 body parts to find. These were ultimately very disappointing as all I got for finding them was a new skin, which was a very basic color swap. As you further explore the map, you can also find secret rooms that house health and fervor upgrades, small shops to buy items, fast travel points, mea culpa altars, and confessor statues. The latter allows you to remove all of your guilt for a fee, though you can also destroy them, and if you take the appropriate steps, this opens up challenge arenas. There's 7 total, and completing these are key to obtaining the good ending of the game. As for the mea culpa altars, there's again 7 total, and these allow you to purchase new combat moves. This is done by spending what are called tiers of atonement. Think the souls in Dark Souls, as these serve the same purpose. You attain them as you kill enemies and bosses, and sometimes even quest rewards. Though the catch is that each mea culpa altar opens up a new listing of moves, so to fully deck out your player, you need to find all 7, and one is especially devious. Speaking of devious, there's even a few puzzle rooms. Most aren't too bad, but one took me a while to figure out. I'll remain mum about them here as to not spoil their solutions, but if you solve them, you get some cool items. Definitely seek them out. In general, thoroughly exploring the environment is incredibly beneficial to succeeding within the game. This is due to not only the extra health and fervor you can find, but the rosary beads and extra spells. Your character can be customized by switching around which rosary beads you carry. A few very useful ones allowed me to negate incoming damage while healing, increase my defense and health, limit elemental damage, and more. You can also equip one prayer at a time, though these can be changed at will, and some of them are quite powerful. The one I got very early in the game, which increased my attack speed, is what I relied on for most of the game. It fit my playstyle very well, though there's others that are pretty awesome, like one which spins some shields around me, one summons minions to attack enemies, and one blasts a huge bolt of light dealing massive damage. How you build your character will determine how some bosses are tackled. Later ones use a lot of elemental spells, so I equipped beads to help combat that. The bosses, by the way, are fucking awesome. They're visually stunning, and their moves are well choreographed, so if you pay attention, you can easily avoid their hits. Even the ones that seemed impossible at first became easy once I calmed down and focused. I think there's 12 total, and they are the highlight of the game. If you can't tell, there's a lot to love about this game, but as mentioned at the top of the video, it's not perfect, and some annoyances built up and hurt the entire experience. Speaking of hurting the experience, as I record this, someone just turned on a mower outside, so if you guys are hearing that noise pickup, I really apologize. But back to the video. One gripe is that there's a lot of backtracking, and with very few fast travel spots, I was forced to trudge over the same environments over and over. In some games this might not be so bad, but some of the level design is very devious, and my biggest problem with the entire game is how imprecise the platforming is. I died more to missing pixel-perfect jumps and due to my character not grabbing ledges when he should than I did in any combat scenario. After reading the Reddit on this game, this seems to be a common complaint. The platforming just isn't up to snuff, and dying on spikes and having to play through a bunch of rooms over and over again got tiresome and fast. At one point, my dude missed the same jump 6 times in a row. Why? Because he didn't automatically grab a ledge when he should have. This wasted 15 to 20 minutes as each time the jump failed I died and had to replay a bunch of platforming rooms to get back to where I was. Another annoyance was with some of the boss design. Not the actual fights themselves, mind you, but the build up to them. For example, a difficult final boss was at the top of an elevator, but the checkpoint was at the bottom. So each time I died, I had to wait for the elevator to come back, then I had to wait for the ride back to the top, only to enter the fight and have to skip past the same dialogue. It may sound minor, but it hurts the flow of the game and makes retrying a tough foe immensely annoying. The game also crashed my console's blue screen 4 times. And some of my death spots glitched, making it impossible for me to receive a blessing to undo the guilt filling up my fervor. So a large chunk of the endgame was played with guilt I couldn't get rid of because I'd already destroyed the Confessor's statues to get the challenge rooms they cover. As said, there's a lot to love about this game, but the issues build up and chunks of it became incredibly annoying. Overall, I love the game, and at the end of the year I can see it being in my top 10 list, but it's most certainly not for everyone. But as always, those are just my thoughts, so as I tend to do, I'm about to shut up so you can see pure unfiltered gameplay and make up your own mind. But before I close my yapper, please check the description of this video for ways to support my work if you like what I do. As with my other impressions, I 100% did this title as to give the most honest assessment I can. Anyways, I hope you appreciate my hard work. Now on with the rest of the video. Bye!
Penitent one, you who carry the painful guilt in your cracked hands. Lend it to us and alleviate our burden. Lend it to us and wipe away our tears. Because it is an act of penitence.
As an independent content creator, I need all the help I can get to grow my channel, so if you like my work, please leave a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, maybe drop a comment below, join my Discord, and if you want to support what I do, please check the description for ways to donate.